Welcome to Texas PTA's Ins and Outs of Volunteers, one of our extra credit resources for PTA leaders. Today we're going to talk about how we get volunteers and how to keep the good ones. Winston Churchill said, "You make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give." And in PTA, we want to give our volunteers ample reasons to spend their quality time with us so that they feel that they are truly contributing to making a great life for themselves and others. How are we going to do that? Let's start by looking at the ins and outs of volunteers. It's always a good idea to know exactly what you're getting into before you dive in too deep. During our discussion today, we're going to bookend our talk with a focus on you and your organization, and in the middle we will round out the presentation with recruiting and retaining the best volunteers. It turns out it isn't as simple as creating a sign-up genius. My mission or my drive is to help others reach their full potential. Do you know yours? Your personal why and that of your organization don't need to be the same, but they need to support each other. When they do, it is easier to share this connection with others who might join you on your journey. As we are going to discover, sharing your why will help when you are looking for the right volunteers. In the world of volunteering, ideally you want to find the good fit or the good hire. Simon Sinek, author and leadership development speaker, best known for his book, Start With Why, says, "If you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they'll work for you with blood and sweat and tears." Your volunteers aren't working for a paycheck connected to cash, but they are working for something that makes them feel valued. They will feel more valued when they are connected to what your organization believes is possible than when they don't. There are lots of ways to define what the mission is for your organization. For many, it is how you imagine the future of the world. Everyone will have access to pure drinking water. This goal most likely can't be accomplished in the next 50 years. Let's consider it a stretch goal. It is your greater purpose or your just cause. When you can share your mission, it allows you to find others who are like-minded. Like-minded individuals will work for you through blood, sweat, and tears to see your organization get just one step closer to seeing the organization's purpose come true. As a former classroom teacher, I'm always looking for hands-on learning opportunities, and in that vein, real-world practice was born. If we were together in a classroom, we would take a few minutes to work on creating a simple why statement. To help you get started, let's take a look at the PTA mission statement. From National PTA's website, PTA's mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Now that sentence can be arranged, or if it were longer, boiled down to one sentence, using the standard format of the why statement. I am inspired to blank so that blank. PTA is inspired to engage, educate, and empower families and communities to advocate so that every child's potential becomes a reality. Here are some additional examples for you to think about. You are inspired to hold an annual book drive so that children in hospitals can always be able to find a good book to read. Or maybe you are inspired to collect trash along the side of the road so that the earth will be a healthier place to live. By simplifying things down to one why statement, it is easier to succinctly communicate your organization's purpose. Don't worry about making it perfect. The simple statement can continually be tweaked to be more accurate and reflect how you want to see the world of the future. It's entirely possible that you already have this or can swap your mission statement around a bit to make one quickly. But if not, here's the great thing about a recording. You can hit pause right now and take some time to work on a why statement, or after the presentation is completed, rewind and come back to this part. Either way, take a few minutes to work on this bit of real world practice. Now that you know what your group's guiding star is and a couple of ways to share that with others, let's start figuring out what type of volunteers you need. For a PTA, volunteers are not just nice to have, they are as necessary to doing business as funding. But before you get them, there's a bit of prep work to be done. We want to make sure that you know what type of volunteer you need, when you need them, and what they will do. The answers probably seem obvious, but really thinking through the questions and getting good, well thought out answers is critical to keeping good volunteers around for the long term. Let's start at the beginning. Why do you need volunteers? Volunteers are valuable, and when used well, they impact your bottom line. In 2021, the dollar per volunteer hour savings was just over $28, $28.54 to be exact. Having that knowledge helps to remember that when you are recruiting volunteers, you don't just want a warm body. You want to truly be able to contribute to your cost of doing business in the most positive of ways, by saving money. This is part of the value PTA adds to our schools. And because of this, it is important to make sure you have planned for their use. Getting specific all the way down to the type of skill sets you need allows you to not only find a good fit, but also to use the skills the volunteers have in their personal toolkit to their fullest. Volunteers that are not used well tend not to stick around. And when they don't stick around, instead of being a great use of the organization's resources as a type of savings account, their replacement takes just as much time to train as the first one did, and you'll be back at square one all over again with no positive impact to the profit and loss statement of your organization. Here we are again, real-world practice. Feel free to pause or rewind so that you can get the most out of it. At the beginning of this section, we brought up just a couple of questions you would want to think through as you assess your volunteer needs. Remember, to recruit great volunteers, it isn't as simple as posting a sign-up sheet. Doing your pre-work, in this case, a bit of RWP now, will help you in the long run. Think about the story you want to tell to potential recruits and then answer those 6 critical questions. Consider, who and what do you need? Are there specific characteristics and skills you need in a volunteer? Where and when do you need them? Can you provide all of the details to help your volunteer arrive on time and in a positive mood? These next 2 are critical. Why do you need them, and how are you going to use them? Be sure they are taking care of something that you aren't able to do yourself, and that what they are doing is beneficial to the group as a whole. Remember, if your volunteer can't connect to the mission of your organization and they don't really have the skills you need, in all likelihood, they will be gone sooner rather than later. Rob Jackson of Rob Jackson Consulting makes a good point as he references Ivan Shear's definition of volunteering. I love Ivan Shear's definition of volunteering. Doing more than you have to because you want to, for a cause you consider to be good. It's a personal definition. It implies organizations should start with what people want to do, the passions and experience they want to bring. It means creating roles with them that both meet our needs and fit with their availabilities and interests. It means a volunteering experience they enjoy, they find fulfilling and rewarding, and that doesn't conform to the stereotype of old-fashioned models of giving time. Because really, if a volunteer finds themselves bored while working with your PTA, there's a really good chance that next time they will just find themselves bored at home. Now let's think about what motivates an individual to volunteer. You can find list after list of great reasons that people choose to step up to help out. Ideally, you're looking for people who have great reasons, such as these on the slide: sharing skills, providing an impact, and building relationships. But it's not always one of those top-tier reasons that gets a volunteer in the door. Maybe it's because they want to be an insider, or they felt guilty, or maybe it's even in order to get recognition. It's important that you are able to take what you get and help them get to where you need them to be. Because no matter what you are doing, people will always be your greatest asset. And in some cases, like with PTA, they are your only assets. We want our assets to be around for the long term, so we need to invest in them. This is where that prep work comes into play again. When you plan well, you are able to describe exactly what you need a volunteer to do. Let's consider this scenario. The PTA has been hard at work collecting cans to donate to the local food bank, and there are way too many for the minivan that you had scheduled. It's time for a real delivery truck, which means you're going to need to recruit a volunteer with a Class C commercial driver's license. Once you've found that volunteer with the Class C CDL, it might not be a bad idea to find out what other vehicles they are able to drive, because next year the canned food drive could be a lot bigger. And if that volunteer is one that wants to stay engaged with PTA activities, talk to them about what other special skills they have to make sure that you are using them in the best way possible as your needs and their feeling of purpose develop. No matter how much prep work you do or how much surveying you do, if communication isn't part of the plan, your plan will have a volunteer-shaped hole in it. Do your part to keep the holes filled by heading off some of the biggest frustrations volunteers have. Be sure your volunteers know the basics of when and where they are needed and what they will be doing. Specifically, your volunteers need to know when the event or activity is scheduled and what types of volunteers are needed. Also, everyone needs to be aware of when and where they need to arrive, plus exactly what their task will be when they get there. It's not fun as a volunteer or an organizer to have people wandering around wondering how to help. Lastly, if your volunteer doesn't understand the job fully, it is a lot more likely that the job won't get done, leaving everyone frustrated. So now that we have our volunteers fully aware of what you need them to do and you are using all the skills they brought with them, let's help them be as productive as possible. It isn't all about making sure they follow directions. We want them to follow the directions with heart. Charity Water has done a great job using stories to motivate their volunteers and their donors. Stories are powerful tools because as social beings, we can get drawn into a story very easily. When volunteers make personal connections, either with a recipient or an outcome, they again will work through blood, sweat, and tears because they know they can make a difference. Through stories, we can connect people to the greater good of your organization. Jim Valvano, basketball player, coach, and broadcaster, is credited for saying, "A person does not become whole until he becomes part of something bigger than himself." While I've been unable to find the exact time he said this, and I can't guarantee what he meant specifically, when it comes right down to it, whether he was talking about being part of a team of basketball players or a team of volunteers working to raise funds to cure cancer, the facts remain the same. Connecting to something bigger than you just allows you as a person to become whole, and that's what we want our volunteers to do. Take on our mission, our vision, our just cause, and want to see it through no matter what. Here's another opportunity for a little practice. Again, don't hesitate to hit pause as you are watching or rewind to review the section later. Stories really matter. What is a story you can share with your volunteers during the recruitment or retention phase? In a 2017 Forbes article, Celine DaCosta explains 4 reasons why developing a storytelling strategy helps businesses grow. And yes, PTA is a business, and one you probably would like to see grow. Her last reason is my first, and in my opinion, the most important reason. Costa states, "Storytelling connects us, helps us make sense of the world, and communicates our values and beliefs. A good story makes us think and feel, and speaks to us in ways that numbers, data, and presentation slides simply can't. The strongest stories tap into people's emotions, generally connect with them, and help them believe in a business and what it stands for. Businesses should not be afraid to tell the full story, the struggles, conflicts, setbacks, successes, etc., to help people understand the passion and heart that went into creating and building the brand. In this practice section, take a few minutes to think through how you tell your organization's story now, and if you can improve it to create deeper connections with all those involved. As you develop stories, keep in mind that all of your business platforms are useful resources to spread your message. Some platforms allow for longer stories to be told, and others will need it to be quite short. Think about the full 2-minute commercial versus the 30-second one. Both tell the same story, just a little bit differently. The classic story puts the potential volunteer or donor in their role of the hero, your organization as the guide who has the ability to help the hero solve whatever problem they are trying to overcome, and then there is the cliffhanger of will the hero make the right choices or not? First, it's critical to be able to find a good ending to your story, and that brings the point of the story home to the listener. Next, it's a great idea to make the listener part of the story, the best part, the hero. Here's a quick example. The hero has too many clothes in their closet. Your PTA takes used clothes in any condition and repurposes them into quilts, which are then given away to the homeless. Your hero can choose to bring warmth to those less fortunate and save the day, or, well, they can choose not to. It's up to them, but in your story, you can show them the impact of choosing to be the true hero and how that has an additional impact on those who would receive the blanket. Business storytelling isn't really a new thing, but sometimes we just need help getting out of our own way when we are trying to develop a good story. Our March 2021 StoryBistro.com article lists 7 potential story frameworks and the corresponding well-known story told within the framework mentioned. The 7 types are quest, journey/return, comedy, tragedy, rags to riches, rebirth, and the underdog. In this article, you can find a quiz at storybistro.com/biz-storytelling-type that will tell you the best story framework for your PTA, as well as a list of the top 10 business storytelling books curated by Story Bistro in February 2021. Beyond connecting to the organization's story, how is another way volunteers can be made whole by connecting with a greater good? It turns out that volunteering comes with benefits. Research has shown that volunteering adds as many years to your life as adding servings of fruits and vegetables to your diet. It has also been shown to improve your executive level mental faculties such as self-control, flexible thinking, and memory. Since volunteers tend to be active, the impact of their active lifestyle lowers their risk for heart disease. And lastly, volunteers hardly ever work alone, so there is more opportunity to develop connections and socialize with people outside of their home. When we remember the value of volunteering, we can guide our volunteers to see the value as well. Connecting back to Simon Sinek and Jim Valvano, feeling like you are part of something meaningful gives you the desire to see the task at hand all the way through. Just as Dan Cardinale says, whether it's giving or volunteering, you want to see everyone participating in civil society. You want to see everyone saying, I have a stake in my community, and I'm committed to doing what I can to make this a better place. Up until this point, we have really been trying to read the minds of our volunteers and find ways to connect so that they want to return every time you need them. But we aren't very good mind readers, and sometimes we stumble even with the best of intentions. So it's a good idea to reach back and let our volunteers talk to us. Sort of a 360-degree review. Think about all aspects of the volunteer experience and find out from the feet on the ground if the experience was what you dreamed it would be. Try asking a few questions to open up conversation. Did they have any trouble finding where to volunteer? Did they understand the scope of the project? Did they have all the tools necessary? Were they able to ask questions? It is with questions like this that you will know if you were able to truly communicate with your volunteers. Lots of talking doesn't always mean that there was lots of understanding. So since we are human and powerful stories of positive outcomes build connection to the purpose of your PTA, we really do need to show appreciation for a job well done. Here are just a few different ways to do just that. Embrace a volunteer's creativity because an invested and involved volunteer returns. Create teams because the saying is absolutely true. Teamwork makes the dream work. It is so much easier to get the job done when you are with others making memories and having fun. And lastly, let your volunteers use the talents they brought with them and let them know that you recognize the talent as well as a job well done. Often you can find a volunteer who, when noticed, will offer to use their talents more often. Appreciating a volunteer includes living up to your side of the bargain. Did you change something without telling them? Are they always expected to complete a task or just stay for the shift for which they signed up? If either of those are true, your volunteer will likely feel taken advantage of and underappreciated. We definitely don't want that. Remember to think through the project up front and figure out how to handle the unexpected without automatically thinking your volunteer will pick up the pieces for you. As we continue to consider volunteer appreciation, of course there is the traditional avenue. Simply say thank you. People like to hear the words thank you, but sometimes it needs to be more than that. To go just a bit beyond the standard try, look at a quick verbal acknowledgement, a short written note expressing your gratitude, a longer note welcoming them back with a message about how they contributed. If you know one volunteer needs a little bit more encouragement at the moment, spend a bit more time appreciating them with one of the longer versions of thank you mentioned. But in the end, it comes down to saying thank you and meaning it. We said we would bookend this with you in mind, so here we are. It's all connected. Your mission begins to interest your volunteers. Your vision helps you see how to use those volunteers in the best way. And your purpose allows volunteers to continue to connect again and again, and return again and again. Honestly, this is just the cream on top of a very rich dessert. There is so much more that can be discussed about the need for volunteers, how to find them, and how to keep them. Here are the main references for the material discussed today. Each article links to more, and many, many more, if you have something specific in mind that you want to check out more deeply. I will leave you with these final words from Gandhi. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Thank you for attending this extra credit presentation on volunteers. If you have any additional questions or have a topic you would like to see as an extra credit, please let us know by emailing vpl@txpta.org. Thanks again and have a great day.